And thank you for.
Welcome to my podcast, Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality. My name is Vicki Poole, and I am a life coach, a health coach, a hypnotherapist at the Enlightened Peach. And this podcast is all about embracing our mosaic life. Some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life? Well, it's recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing and we are different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections. And we're going to dive into our dreams, looking at where your dreams come from, and are they really yours? And this podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. I will be your host, and we'll have special guests from time to time. And as a matter of fact, today I have a special guest that I'm going to be introducing to you in just a moment. But if you have any ahas or questions, please leave a comment or a voice message. So now let's get started. So I'm going to start off with introducing you. And I had a wonderful experience with meeting this gentleman, just actually online. And I'm going to, his story was so good, I just reached out. So I'm going to read to you his bio, and then I will let him come on and talk to us. But he is definitely I might say a character. I just really love his humor and the way he does things. So I'm going to be reading this right now. So just bear with me. And for one thing, his name is Jason. Is it Hottle?
Huddle.
Hottle? Okay.
Yeah.
And he starts off his bio with quack. And he says his name is Jason, but his friends call him Fluffy. He's a wolf pretending to be human. And he says that he's a below-the-knee amputee. His missing foot is on a sabbatical in Kentucky, hanging out with my friend Mary. So I'll be interested to find out about his friend Mary. And he goes on to say, I'm a 41-year-old gay male who makes bad puns, does energy healing, and works as a psychic. I often quack like a duck to remind myself that I choose joy over stress. I help people heal with trauma so they may step into their power, so they can find a way to be their best possible self. I promote psychic hygiene, the use of the laws of attraction and manifestation. I emphasize the use of language to reprogram the mind to affect how we manifest our dreams in the world. And that's one of the wonderful things that I love about what I do is I feel the same way. Words are so powerful. Whether they're used for good or bad, they have a power to them. In terms of spirituality, he says he's a pagan with a bit of Christianity. And he says, I work with the Nordic Pantheon mostly. And I'm not sure what that is, so you'll have to fill us in on that. I wear the Vallnut on my back. It's an ancient symbol of death and rebirth and of destruction and creation. I am also a chaos magician. I want to hear a lot about that one. I work through quantum physics and the multiverse to move energy, shift probability, and to act as a facilitator for healing and ascension. 2 years ago, I started to lose my lower leg due to neglect and diabetes. This was year 3 of me asking the universe to destroy all my fears and lead me into a better life. I'm now on my 5th year. And in the last 2 years, I've upgraded almost every aspect of my life. I found the love of my life, completely healed from several life-threatening medical problems, and even managed to get my pancreas working again, somehow. So my blood sugar is now controlled, and I just moved out of my family home. I'm still struggling with the idea that the universe wants me to be happy, but I choose to exist in a timeline where this is my birthright and privilege. Oh, I love that. I am okay with this struggle. It reminds me to be grateful for everything I've been through and for where I am, which is our mosaic life. I have discovered how to find the joy and humor that the universe is hiding from us. I have an emotional support stuffed animal named Baxter, which is really, really cute, who regularly joins me for coffee at the local cafe. I did this so I could heal and find empowerment from my family traumas. I choose daily to take what I have learned and share it with other people so that they too may find empowerment and love. I visualize it as a virus, so it spreads everywhere. And with that, I give you Jason or Fluffy. And so just kind of there's so much in there that piques my interest. It's like, what does that mean? But first thing I want to ask you is, when you say I visualize it as a virus, so it spreads everywhere. So dive into that thought for me.
Okay. Vicky, thank you. And thank you for having me here. I'm actually quite excited. Um, virus. Okay. So there's actually a story behind that.
Oh,
Um,
can't wait to hear.
I told you that I move energy.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that thoughts, intentions are actually things, and you could place those energies into things. So for several years now, whenever I would go to a pagan event called Pantheon, it's now switched to called Between the Veils, and I'm in California, by the way. I would be handing out little rocks, crystals, usually citrine, and I would put my unique energy signature into it, which feels like a wave of light and love and a form of gentle static.
Okay.
And I would put it into those crystals and I would just hand them out to people. And I would imagine that each crystal would be a doorway to my unique energy, which is a branch of divine energy, because we
Mm-hmm.
all are. And it would feed people spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And it would encourage them to have a brighter mindset. So they would smile more. So they
Mm-hmm.
would laugh more. They would indulge in humor. And so they would be little beacons, better beacons of light and love and vitality. And so they would be affecting the people around them. And that energy would be contagious
Mm-hmm.
and it would spread quite literally like a virus. And every year I would do this and I would feel like I would be building a web of energy. And each year it would get stronger and stronger because it would more and more people would be affected.
Can I
And
ask
every
do you mind if I ask a question really quick?
yeah, be
So,
my guest.
so when you're handing out these little stones to people and everything, and you're there with a specific group of people that can probably feel energy and everything, maybe more so than some others. But what was your response? What response did you get from people when you handed these out?
My response?
No, what
Or their-
was their response?
Most of them were excited about receiving a shiny.
Do you feel like they could feel the energy that you put in there and the
Most of,
intention
yes,
behind it?
yes,
Wonderful.
most of them did.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to have two categories of stones. One that I deliberately worked with,
Mm-hmm.
and another set, usually rose quartz, because it's gentle. I didn't do anything with it. It just picked up
Okay.
the ambient energy. And that was something I would give out for people that thought my main stone was too much.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, and I would tell people that these crystals are doorways to energy, and you could quite literally use them as batteries. And I specialized in water magic, and water soaks into everything in the area, vitalizing it, charging it, and streamlining it. So it would take what's there and make it better.
Mm-hmm.
So put it on an altar, and you would find yourself building a better network of energy.
Okay. Well, you were when we were talking before we ever got on here, we were talking a little bit about words and different things. And speaking of the water, is like we're 90, is it 90% water? 85% whatever it is. And then that coupled with, I love the Emoto experiment with the water. Are you familiar with that one?
Possibly, I don't know the
Okay.
term.
It's the one where he did the experiment where he put words on water and he froze
Yes,
the water, and then it
I
created
do.
different crystals depending on
I
whether it
do.
was a positive word or a negative word or phrase. Um and it's amazing to me the amount of people that are not aware of what our words, even more so than our actions. A lot of times our words change our physiology, just like you put the energy in those crystals, and that helps to facilitate change.
Even exactly, even Christians got this right. That's why
Mm-hmm.
they bless the food. That's why they bless the water.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I even tell clients that I have, no matter what you do, because I have clients from all walks of life. Some of them are there for weight loss, some are for quit smoking. There's just a plethora of different things that people want different assistance with. But the people that are into like the health part of it and everything, I tell them, I don't care whether what your religious beliefs are, but when you sit down to eat, you bless the food and all, because
Mhm.
you actually get more energy from it. You get more nutrients from it just by doing this blessing.
Mhm. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And the energetic part is very important, but you're also telling your body that you're about to be nourished, and you're reminding yourself that you are going to derive as much from this as you can. And you're also slowing down and relaxing.
Definitely.
So you can eat it properly. If you gobble up the food, it's too much all at once, and you're not going to be able to process it the right way.
Right. Well, most people are in such a hurry for every little thing that they're doing that they don't slow down for anything. So it's wonderful when they can take the time to slow down. And I will share, I've worked with people that had so much stress and anxiety over getting things done that they couldn't even take a little 5-minute break in their day to just sit and anything. And so it's um I think that's the beauty of this work, is that we can help people to appreciate life and all the things that are going into it, whether we have some things from our past that didn't serve us very well, but it's part of that mosaic of life. And I know the fact that are you a double amputee or just one foot?
Just
Is it,
one,
or is it below the knee?
yeah, but below the knee on the
Okay.
right leg.
Okay.
And the first time I lost something, it was half my foot.
Okay.
And then 6 months later, it was at the calf. And
Okay.
a year to the day, I lost another half inch.
Oh wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of, I can't even imagine, to be honest with you. I haven't even lost a fingernail, much less a finger or a toe or it's a lot to have a part of your body
Yes.
removed. And how do you feel like, what helped you with mentally getting to this place where now you still do all this amazing things? And I'm assuming, of course, you know what assuming is.
I do.
But I'm
But
assuming I'm
but
assuming that
assuming,
pardon?
oh sorry, I assuming is based on an understanding of what currently is,
Mm-hmm.
and that's perfectly fine and acceptable. We need to, when we find out it's a false assumption, we just reorient and move forward. Don't think about it.
Right. Perfect. Perfect. I love that. I was doing the old thing of, if you assuming you make an ass out of me and you kind of thing, but
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. But I'm assuming you were doing this work prior, correct?
I was.
Right? And so doing this work that you do, I would think, and you can kind of interject in here, is something that helped you tremendously with going through this process and not going down or not staying in a deep hole. I would imagine you have to at some point have just been very, very, down about it. because I feel like being human, we do have to grieve something, especially losing a part of our body. But I think from the work that you've done, you are probably able to come out of that place a lot quicker than a lot of people. So could you kind of expand on what you were doing prior to and how that helped you?
Okay, I will. And this is actually quite a lot.
Okay.
And I will say this, losing my leg was the most empowering thing I've ever done.
Hmm.
I quite literally spent 5 minutes crying.
Okay.
That was it.
That's
That's
amazing.
that's because someone was freaking out and
Uh,
I couldn't handle their emotion.
got it.
So this actually started in, well, first of all, I have a mild case of cerebral palsy,
Okay.
and that affects my motor skills. Most people won't be able to tell because it only affects me when I'm tired. I had a lot of physical therapy as a child. Um, but, oh, and I also come from a toxic family. There's nothing actually wrong with them. It's just the people in my family are drawn to narcissists. We're a bunch of light workers, psychics. We hit all of the supernatural highlights,
Okay.
and and people that need that energy are drawn to us. Well, I fixed that, um, and so we get suppressed. And I'm a twin, and I have ADHD, so I was always special.
Are you
Always
identical twins?
paternal.
Fraternal? Okay.
Yeah, and my brother is just as magically inclined as me, but and I suppose this is part of my success as a magically inclined person. I always viewed me and my brother as owning everything together. So anything that he has access to is mine.
Hmm.
And so when I pull on energy, I use his skill sets too. Um, but so toxic family, no one wants to be, um, we get frowned upon when we do something that's beneficial. And I was raised Christian, so light, love, making the world a better place was a great foundation for being who I am. And as an adult, every time I would try to do something, Jay, don't stand out. Don't make a difference. Don't cause waves. Don't be honest. Don't be sincere. Don't be authentic. Everything was clothed in more conventional prohibitions, and you can imagine what those are. But it's basically what it came down to,
Mm-hmm.
and very disempowering. With all my physical challenges, I wasn't allowed to have confidence. So I was stuck living at home, and every time I tried to do something for myself, someone in my family would come along and physically, magically, and emotionally drain away the energy. No one understood what they were doing, but I quite literally could not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it began to affect my health, and I began to fight. And I noticed that I was attracting more and more narcissists and unhappy people around me. This even happened at work. And I noticed that my foot started having problems. And then I became diabetic. Now, I also
So you
figured out
noticed the foot first?
I noticed the foot first,
Okay.
and a couple years later, I became diabetic. Now, I found out that diet soda contained a chemical, aspartame, was slowing down my metabolism and causing and enhancing other problems. So I cut that out of my diet,
Which
and
was it that you broke up for just a second? What was it that was in your diet?
aspartame,
Okay.
aspartame,
Yeah. Okay.
it's a neurotoxin.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
lots of research online. Took that out of my diet. Within 6 months, I lost close to 80 pounds.
Mm-hmm. I
And
will
people thought
say That was part in my diet at one point, and I was having excessive migraines to the point I was put on a preventative migraine medicine.
Yeah.
And as I started researching that kind of stuff, and I realized that that was, all the things that it said about it, I thought, well, let me just eliminate that. And I took that away, and I still get a migraine occasionally, but it's more of a hormonal thing. But I was just blown away with
Yeah.
it was like I didn't have to take this preventative or anything anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I was also suffering from tinnitus, that ringing in your ears, and I
Hmm.
had 3 or 4 different tones going on at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So that took care of
And
that?
that took care of that mostly. Um, we're if you're psychic, you get energetic downloads all the time.
Hmm.
And if you get a download and if your meridians are clogged, that's where the download comes. You get the ringing in your ears as it's getting stuck. But you just have to
Okay.
clean it energetically and you're fine.
Okay.
But the stress of losing all that weight triggered the diabetes.
Hmm.
And I even went to the doctor, to the urgent care saying, I am diabetic, I need to get tested, and I need to get this fixed. I got laughed out of the clinic.
Really?
Yes. Um, and then about 2 years before the arches on my feet collapsed. And I started having lots and lots of problems with that. And eventually, I wound up getting an ulcer on the bottom of my toe. And I was trying to get my insurance figured out so I could get it taken care of. And that took a little bit of time. And then I wanted to go to Phoenix um, for a weekend, and I was like, if I allow this problem to become a thing, I'm not going to be able to do anything for a long period of time. So on Halloween of 2017, I was in a graveyard praying to God, and I was asking a pagan high priestess who was buried there to help me with this. And I said, help me get past my emotional problems, my physical problems, and my spiritual problems. I am unhappy. I am stuck. I need proper housing. I need to be in a healthy relationship with the best person I can find. And I also need to have also needed to have medical insurance so I could have everything paid for because I know the moment I hit go on this, everything's going to fall apart.
Right.
And I had one request that this happen the moment I get back from my trip. So, and I was told, okay, fine, you get what you want. The moment I got on the runway at my return trip, I had a stabbing pain go up my leg. And the following Sunday, I looked at my foot and the big toe popped.
Hmm.
And it was bad. And I was told that I was going to lose the toe. And when I went under for the surgery, I found an old man standing in front of me. He had a limp, and he had a problem with his eye. And he told me, Fluff, you're gonna lose your foot. You need to be okay with it. I was like, no, I'm not gonna lose my foot. Teach me how to heal. Teach me how to move energy. Teach me to be the best possible version of myself so I could heal myself. Nice. And he told me at what cost. And I said, I don't care what the cost is. And so I woke up the next morning, looked at my toe, looked at my foot. There was this big, massive bandage around it. And I counted bumps on the toes. Make sure I got 6. I counted 6 bumps on the toe. So, and to God, this is what actually happened. I was like 6 toes. I checked my other foot to make sure I had 5 toes.
Hmm.
And I was like, do I have 6 toes now. Do I need to send um a fruit basket to the person I got the extra toe from? Yeah. I immediately realized I'm just high on morphine. And as it turned out, they only took out a tiny bit of tissue in my toe. And they said it looked bad. It looked downright awful. But when they took everything out, it wasn't much. And I was told I wouldn't be able to walk for 4 or 5 months. In a week and a half later, I was walking around the neighborhood playing Pokemon Go and using a crutch. 3 months later, I returned to work. I did a lot of healing. I did a lot of self-healing, and my foot was agony from that moment forward. It hurt to walk, it hurt to move. I was fighting what the universe wanted.
So that was your cost.
Yeah, it was the cost. But as an act of defiance, I had decided I was going to heal and be happy. And then COVID, and I wasn't happy at my work. And at the celestial equinox, Christmas of 2019, that's when our solar system was at equilibrium. I was going into trance, trying to do some cord cutting so I could leave my work because there was a lot of fear and I couldn't move. I didn't know how to. And I was using helping. I was having the Archangel Michael help me, and I was using his flaming sword to do all the cord cutting. The next day I went to work, I got fired. And within 2 hours, I was employed at a little pagan store in town.
Hmm.
And the day before, someone there quit. And people wanted me to work there. And I told people, if I get fired from my job, I will work there. And I was only able to get one shift a week for 4 hours. Within a week, I had the morning shift every week, every day. Um, the owner didn't like coming to work first thing in the morning. And I had a key to the place, so I was opening. So I kind of took over. And then COVID happened in 2001. Wait, no, it was, yeah, just that year later in 2000. We reopened briefly, and I realized that we're going to get shut down around Christmas. So I told the universe, I looked at what happened to me in my foot, and it was getting hard for me to walk again. And I realized that the person I saw when I went under during that surgery was Odin, because he had a foot problem. He hung from a giant tree for 9 days learning wisdom, learning magic. And he had taught me how to move energy. Now, I had asked Hecate to teach me wisdom so I wouldn't screw myself over. And that happened too. So I'm good on the wisdom too. But I asked Hecate to get me out of the hole I was in, to remind the universe what I had requested, to gain momentum, to push me through my fears, to get me to a better place. I had the knowledge I was looking for. I had the wisdom I was looking for. I felt like I was ready for the next thing. I wasn't ready to accept the next thing, but I also knew that I liked the intensity and I could handle whatever's. Um, so I asked for them to put me in a situation that's outside of my comfort zone. And the first thing that popped up was an email for a temp agency that was looking for workers in the local food bin in my town and packaging food. It was far beyond anything I could do. And I set it aside for a month. And then I asked the universe, where is the thing I was asking for? The email popped back up. So I applied. I got denied, and I was like, yeah, no, cancel. I'm getting my red Sharpie out and saying, no, I'm not accepting this. So let's imagine a different outcome. Let's imagine that this person goes on vacation or something, and my case gets sent to someone else. And I get accepted, and I get sped through the entire process.
Nice.
About 2, 3 weeks later, I get an email saying, okay, Jay, when you go to work tomorrow, make sure you wear closed-toed shoes and do all this stuff and talk to these people, and you're good to go. And I'm like, wait, I never got interviewed. I'm being expected to work. So I put a stop to that. I called up the people and I demanded an interview. And I told them I need 2 weeks notice after the interview, after I sign papers, so I could do this properly. Oh, and also, I have physical problems. I can't do much. So they looked at what I could do, and they told me that there are 2 platoon of Coast Guards working there, and they're trained to work around civilians. So just let them know what your needs are, and you'll be fine. Okay, great. So, and I was asking myself, okay, so knowing how this works, the moment my start date is when my town shuts down due to COVID again. So I gave my employer 2 weeks notice. She knew I was doing this, so it was all good. She wanted me to do it. We're basically waiting for something better for me, and she was helping me with the job. And the store shut down on a Friday, and I was starting my new job the next Monday. And this was something I had put into action 3 months prior.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where the chaos magician thing comes from. Things tend to work out for me. I do one thing early in advance, early on, and the further on down the road, I have perfect alignment. And I can tell you what I did to make it work.
All right.
So the warehouse, it was great. I'm gay. I like big, hunky men,
Mm-hmm.
people that are goal and outcome driven. The place was chaos. I had just 2 platoons of board guys that have been working together for years. They're I had fun. They knew I was gay. They didn't care,
Mm-hmm.
but they kept on pairing me up with the other gay guy on their crew. They thought we were cute together.
Just because you're both gay, it's going to work, right?
Yeah. And so the two of us would just stare at each other as we're working up, and everyone else was being all macho and over the top. And we had a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, knives were throwing in the air, people were dancing on top of pallets. A guy in the forklift would spend time spinning in circles doing donuts. It was a blast.
Mm-hmm.
And my foot was still getting worse. And I figured out what the problem was. My family was turning against me. I was visibly breaking free of the trauma. And I had figured out what it was. There's a generational family curse going on that we are born into. We are drawn to narcissists, people that want to take away our power. And I got a, a stronger dose than anyone because I somehow inherited um, the magical talent from both sides of my family in full,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in full. And I was aware of it. So I got hit by it even more strongly. And I had even managed to take it apart and reverse it so that the people coming after me would be drawn to people that would amplify our gifts. lift us up and raise them to the next level. I managed to switch the polarity. I didn't strain away the energy. I just switched it from negative to positive.
Perfect.
And yeah, all my selenite broke when I did that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was actually a lot of fun. And my mom was so mad at me when she came home after her vacation when I did this because she knew I did something.
Mm-hmm.
She could feel it. And I managed to do that when my brother's son was, as he was being born, because that's when a kid is the most magical, and it's
Right.
connecting to the kid's higher self to help with this because he was the one that would be the most affected because he was the first of the next generation. So I did that and everything. I I did I broke the biggest taboo in my family, and I broke the family. I didn't break the family curse. I turned it into a family blessing, and
Perfect.
most of them felt that. And my
Mm-hmm.
sister was turning against me. My parents were. My mom was dying. We thought my mom was dying from liver failure, so we were all congregating, and my sister had turned everyone against me. They just wanted me out of the house, and no one seemed to care that I was suffering. And so my leg was going bad. Um, Emotional, physical, and spiritual. It's all connected. And emotionally and spiritually, I was sick.
Mm-hmm.
I was bleeding through into the physical because that was the weakest part of me. And so, and my work was beginning to go bad too. Um, the temp agency was became obvious that she didn't want to be working with us. And so she had quietly talked to the place we were working at, and she convinced them to hire us directly. I was never asked. So on Wednesday, the director of the place we're at said that I'm going to be start working in the janitorial position the next day, and my request has been approved. What? Who are you talking about? I never put in a request. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And the janitorial thing, I can't physically do that. I don't have the mobility. I don't have the capacity to get on the floor and do anything. You need to go back to my employer and talk to them. That was a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday evening, the manager from the department I was supposed to report to said that, "What's up? You didn't report for duty today." And I had to explain to them, I never signed up for anything. I just found out about this yesterday. So that was Thursday. Friday, we had to go to a place to hand out food. I got off early. I had my employer trying to call me, probably to tell me off, so that I needed to report to work. And I was like, I'm done with this. Um, I went to bed because I was just that exhausted. And my leg was really killing me for the last 2 weeks. I ignored it. I shook it off. I did more energy work. I got through it. I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, took off my socks because I just went to bed fully clothed. Two of my toes had blown out.
Oh, wow.
I could see the bone.
Wow.
I had a red line going up my leg, and I knew what gangrene looked like. And my leg and my foot was turning brown and dark red and kind of leathery. Went to
So
the
it was
ER.
that fast, or you just didn't notice it before?
I didn't notice it.
Mm.
Now, I didn't know there was anything wrong. Now, earlier that day, I had tripped and my foot landed heavily on the ground. Um, and I felt something in my foot shift, but I thought I just, you know, when you move your hand or something, you hear bones crack. That's just knuckles popping and things. I
Hmm.
heard something like that. So I thought that's what would happen, and I can still move my ankle. So I didn't think anything of it.
Wow, that's got to have been, um, I just can't even imagine, but That's got to be pretty intense to take your sock off and see that kind of devastation when you really didn't even realize anything had happened.
Yeah. And I felt when I was like, okay, so the worst case scenario is happening. And I felt time slow down. And I quite literally heard a voice asking me, what do you want to do next?
And what did you
And
answer?
regardless of what happens, I want to be happy.
Okay.
And so I said, so I felt like the universe was asking me to shut down my emotions so I could do what I need to do. Because if I needed to get used to the idea that this was happening, and you go into shock. The body does this for a reason, so you
Mm-hmm.
can take care of business and react later.
Go on automatic pilot.
Yeah. So, and I said, okay, I'm making the conscious decision. When this wears off, I will be okay. I will be stable, and I will be in control, and I will be able to choose what I do next. And I choose humor.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that my A1C, my blood glucose was so high that it should have killed me weeks ago. A healthy A1C is 6. I
Mm-hmm.
was at 17.
Wow.
I had MRSA, Staphylococcus aureus,
Mm-hmm.
2 dead toes. I had gangrene, and I was also incredibly septic.
Oof.
And I had 2 unknown bacteria or viruses in my foot. And this was all been going on for several weeks. And
Wow.
I worked in a warehouse at a full-time job for all that time.
That's intense.
Yeah, it was, and I lost my foot right at the metatarsals, right about here.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a bad place for rehab. 5 weeks. They did not care about their patients. Second night, I wanted calling the cops.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was hell. The universe gave me something to fight against. I'm an Aries. I like I like combat. I had fun. I had fun being in that place and being the only person that had the capacity to force people to do what I wanted in an environment where people were helpless. They were scared of me. I really was given a gift in being in a combative state the entire time.
And probably the people that were there, as far as patients, were gifted with that as well, because
Mhm.
if you were making a change for your own
Mhm.
um, medical being, you were changing for others as well.
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
And now the funny thing is, the place I live at now, I just moved 3 weeks ago, is 3 or 4 blocks away from that place.
Mm-hmm.
So I pass by it every day.
Yeah. Do you
Mhm.
send it love?
I do.
Perfect.
I do. Um, and I got out of there, and then a couple months later, I found out that, oh, yeah, middle of about 3 weeks after the surgery on half a foot, I was told I'm not going to be able to walk on it um, for a good long time. I got to go to the bathroom and I was barefoot, and I realized I was walking on half a foot,
Hmm.
barefoot, no assistance.
Wow.
We had already got used to it. And 6 months later, I lost my lower leg because I didn't get rid of the infection. And this time around, more problems.
Mm-hmm. So just a quick
And
ask.
yeah,
So since it was neglected diabetes, and so
Work-related
did you,
accident.
pardon?
In a work-related accident, I wound up getting a hole in the bottom of my foot that I
Okay.
didn't know.
Okay, which means that you probably, because of the diabetes, didn't feel whatever happened, right?
A
Right?
neuropathy, right.
Yeah. And I hear that happens a lot.
Mhm.
But so did you alter your food intake? Did you alter all those things for like the diabetes? Or how did you facilitate that change that you said because you've got that, and you might be getting to that, but it was just all of a sudden that just popped in my head. What was it you were doing to take care of the diabetes part?
Well, I was originally given metformin, and I realized that killed my body's ability to heal properly.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived in a toxic household, and every time I would try to cook something in the kitchen, I would get chased out of there. So my diet was never that good.
Okay.
I did what I could, but using prepackaged food, using the microwave, it was
Yeah.
not.
It's a little hard to eat
Yeah,
the
yeah,
diabetic friendly diet when you're having to do it that way.
yeah. So there's reasons why my diet wasn't what it should be,
Mm-hmm.
but it was also the severe emotional state I was in. That's the biggest contributing factor.
Right.
Um, so that happened, and I was in a nursing home for 3 months,
Mm.
and I was fine there.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I like the people um, I gotta be around. If they got stuck, if I got a roommate I didn't like, I would be in. I would make sure that they were taken out. As I said, I'm there to heal. You can't put next to someone. You can't put someone next to me that's spending all our time screaming.
Right. Right.
You just can't. And I had one guy that kept on threatening me with a gun.
Oh.
Yeah, he only lasted 3 days, and I had one person physically attack me while I was in bed one night. And I ran out of my room in a walker, and I was missing a foot. I ran out of my room with a in a walker,
Mm-hmm.
screaming bloody murder. I ran out of a room with one foot.
Yeah.
Impressive. And I actually had a decision on how to react.
Tell more. Tell more.
Yeah. At this point, I had gotten to a place where when shit happens to me,
Mm-hmm.
my emotions shut down just for a brief second, and I get to choose my next emotion. This was a trigger I had built in because I didn't want to waste time I didn't want to waste time being unhappy.
Right.
Um, I ex- I had accepted the fact that all the emotions are there for a reason, and we get to choose how we process information and what to do next. We are either a passive thinker, we are, or we're a reactive thinker, or we're a proactive thinker. I choose to be proactive.
I agree. Yeah.
Um, and when I lost my lower leg, I was back in that clearing, the same one where I had the first surgery 5 years prior. And I was asked, I was told, okay, Jay, are you happy? I told you that you're going to lose your lower leg. You have to pay the piper. You have to pay the price. What do you offer? And I offered nothing. I chose not to pay a price. And instead, I chose to give a gift.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take what happened to me and I am going to make the universe groan and moan and hide from me because of my humor. Since we are on the other side, where thoughts become things, I grabbed my foot and it was floating in a pickle jar. I set this in front of me. I said, this is going to be my shtick. I am going to make the universe a better place by making fun of myself and by using fake feet as props.
So is that where your thing comes where you said that your foot is on a sabbatical in Kentucky hanging out with your friend Mary?
Yeah. It is.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
night before, when I had surgery, I
Mm-hmm.
wrote down on the bottom of my foot with a Sharpie, property of Jason Hoddle. If found, please return to owner. And I put my cell phone number on it. They had to put the sock back on to do the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And they just couldn't look at it and take me seriously. And the night after surgery, I went online and I ordered plastic feet and I sent them to all my friends and family. And it had a message in it saying, "Hi, I'm Mr. Wright. I'm traveling in the country by foot to see what's out there. If you find me, please don't step on me and put me in a nice warm sock and keep me somewhere safe."
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And my friend Mary Hawk, who's a pagan priestess, keeps her foot on a bookshelf with a sock on it.
Okay.
And sometimes when we do videos together for various reasons, she picks up that foot and starts tickling it, and I'm not watching, and it's off screen, and all of a sudden I start getting phantom nerve pains in my foot. And
Interesting.
she'll watch me start twitching.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. But the thing is with that surgery, when I was under when I was asked what do I want, and I said, I want a fresh start. I need to find my guy. I have connected with him energetically and spiritually, and together we have all these adventures. And I imagine he's actually sitting next to me. And I've used thought reframing
Mm-hmm.
so that my brain thinks that he's actually next to me.
Right.
And there's a whole science behind that. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I teach that as well.
Yeah. And so he needs to show up. And I need to find him. And so put me in the best place. And I was searching the multiverse for him because he didn't exist in the same plane of existence as me. He was in some universe far away.
Right.
And I kept on hopping universe to universe looking for him. I kept on pulling him towards me. And every time I would do it, chaos would ensue. So I woke up that next morning back in my home universe, the one I was supposed to be in.
Mm-hmm.
I termed it the fluffy verse, the place where my potential was going to be the happiest. And I also realized I was back in the same state of grace that I was in as a child. I was in perfect resonance with myself and the universe. And I found it was easier to move energy. And when we get traumatized and we lash out and we try to force ourselves into a better place, we move from universe to universe to universe and we get out of sync with our baseline blueprint. I found myself back in where I was. And the first thing I did was make sure that I remembered where that place was. So if I ever left it, I could get back there. I just imagined it as a unique form of sacred space.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as I put that anchor in place, my dad and my aunt walked into the room, and they were all upset, and I just couldn't handle their energy. So I started making fun of myself. I started putting my foot down. They had to leave because they were so horrified with me that they couldn't be unhappy.
Well, it's true. A lot of people, I mean, I believe, like you had said, that we can choose to be happy or we can choose to be unhappy. You
Mhm.
know, it's all a choice, and how we react to the things that happen to us. There's a law of polarity, so we can
Mhm.
either choose to be on one side of the polar or the other, and
Mhm.
it's all a choice. And people are so ingrained with what their choice is that they do not want you to do something that's going to pull them out of it,
Oh yeah,
especially
yeah.
in what they feel may be dire circumstances.
Mhm. Yeah. And I was in dire circumstances, and there were at some points where I was unhappy because, well, emotions are there for a reason. They're healing.
Right. And
You
you're
have to
human. You're
Yeah,
human. So it's normal.
yeah. And we are here to experience the roller coaster of human emotions. So we're supposed
Right.
to allow ourselves to go from place to place to place. I just give myself a certain amount of time before I move myself out of it.
Hmm.
And so
So
there
do
were
you
times where
feel like you spent um, the exact amount of time you needed for grieving? Because it's just like grieving when someone dies, or grieving a lost relationship. It seems to me it would be even a more intense grief to losing a limb.
there was no grief.
None. Okay.
I've had people check my aura on this,
Mm-hmm.
and all sorts of things. My energetic and emotional body did not register me losing a limb.
Okay.
Yeah, strange.
Yeah.
And even though I had to lose it, well, part of my leg twice, I healed up each time. And
So do you, just to interject a question, and I will say that you gave me permission before we got started
yeah,
that if
yeah,
something
yeah,
came up to ask a question. So I don't want people to think that I'm constantly interrupting you, but you did give me permission.
I
So
acknowledge that.
I want to say that. But do you feel like there was some type of significance that this was incremental losses, that it wasn't like they immediately had to take the foot, they didn't immediately have to take it all the way up to the knee? Do you think there's some kind of spiritual or whatever
Yes.
significance to that?
Yes, because I remember I made a contract with the universe several years ago in that graveyard that things happened to me incrementally so I could process through one fear at a time quickly.
Okay.
So it's not too much. So it
Mm-hmm.
happens in order. So once one fear is obliterated or I'm safely past it, the next bigger one happens.
Okay. That makes
So I
sense.
could I could process through and come out the other side and evaluate what's happening as I'm going through the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had requested this.
Okay.
I had chosen the path I was on, and I kept on taking a step out of it and reassessing and building momentum as I'm going. I was in control of this the entire time, and the universe was working with me on this. So, yeah, there was a lot of fear, but it was manageable. And there was
Mm-hmm.
the also the understanding and knowledge that this is what I'm asking for, that this is the dark night of the soul I had deliberately asked for.
Mm-hmm.
And I had acknowledged that my biggest fear wasn't what's coming next, but it was being stuck in the same trap my family was stuck in. That was my biggest fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to destroy everything that my family had me be born into.
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're saying symbolically the not only did you ask for things to be incremental, but the losing of the limbs was separating you from the trajectory of being the same as your family and having those
Yes.
same things. Okay.
Yes. Almost everyone in my family is very hardy genetic stock. Things happen to us. We
Mm-hmm.
recover and we get disempowered.
Mm-hmm.
We lose our spark. We lose our vitality. Um, I didn't want that. I did not want that. And so I spent 3 months in the nursing home. And there was an event I wanted to go to that during there at the local boardwalk. And I felt like I needed to go there because my future husband was going to be there. And I could feel him energetically.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually knew he was there because I could feel him crying out because he was unhappy. I couldn't go because I was stuck in the hospital. Um, and
So how did that make you feel that you could feel him there and you had the desire to go there, but you knew you weren't physically able to do that at that time?
that was the most traumatizing thing I've experienced in years.
Okay.
The most traumatizing. And and in a way, it was also the most exciting because I got a physical location on him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in oh, by the way, every time I had surgery, I would recover quickly. I would start walking and doing other things. I never lost my strength. I never lost my agility, what little agility I had. The cerebral palsy sucks. Um,
Mm-hmm. So did you end up having to be in a wheelchair for a while or
Mhm.
anything? Okay.
Yeah, I was, and the wheelchair was the easiest way to get around. But I could also go a fair distance in a walker and just hop.
Mm-hmm.
So mobility in hospitals was never a problem for me. I mean, the nurses hate it because they had no idea what I was going to do. And if they took too long to get to me, I would actually get out of bed and go look for the nurse. I even had a nurse. There's a rule saying that you have to keep the doors in the hospital open
Mm-hmm.
so they could watch you to make sure you don't do anything you're not supposed to. Um, I can't sleep with my door open, so I could require them to close it at night, and they wouldn't. So I told them that if they leave it open, I'm going to get out of bed and close the door. I even proved it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they were keeping the door open so they would make sure I wouldn't get out of bed. Imagine that particular paradox being presented to you.
Yes.
I did not know what to do. And eventually I got what I wanted. Um,
But I'm with you. I don't like, if I'm in the hospital, I don't like that door open. For one thing, there's too much light coming in and too much noise.
mhm, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah. So, oh, and when I went into the hospital, they had to check all my stuff. And every single time they found all the pagan stuff I had with me. They knew I
Mm-hmm.
was, they knew I was a psychic. They knew I was a tarot reader.
Mm-hmm.
And the nurses quickly realized that I'm the happy person. I fix people's problems. And there's just something about me, maybe a glow or a look of mischief in my eyes. But regardless of where I was, the doctors, the nurses, they were sending their unhappy people to me
Oh, how
for
cool is that?
emotional healing.
Yeah.
So I was busy the
Mm-hmm.
entire time.
That's
So
nice. So how did that feel? To have that um oh God, I don't even know what the word is for them showing you that the path that you were on was the perfect path
it
for
was validated.
you.
It was
Yeah,
validating.
validation. That's it. Why could I
Thank
not
you.
think of that
Yeah,
word?
and at one point, at one point, I heard a nurse saying outside to the new person that was coming on that hadn't encountered me, saying Jason is, no, she actually used my nickname Fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
I said something when I was doped up
Right.
and it stuck.
Yeah.
It was actually on my chart. And I also, oh, for anyone that is reading, hearing this, if you are in a hospital, when you check in, say that your religion is pagan. It gives you access to different services.
Really?
Yes.
What's that about?
So,
What kind of
so you could,
services?
so you could, emotional healing, energetic healing.
Really?
Yeah, you could look it up.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Yeah.
That's intriguing to know.
One of my friends is clergy, and she works as a church chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she had asked. So this lady had asked what that meant. I said I'm pagan. I do. My religion requires me to use candles, smudge sticks, and other things. So this is something you are legally required to provide to me, and give me space for an altar. And
Okay.
you can't do anything about it. So all those cool crystals that we like, we get access to them, and they can't object.
Interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, and if it's on file, they can't object. And this was on file for me. So I heard her tell a new person coming on saying that Jason, oh my Fluffy, will lift you up, make you laugh, and it will make your day better.
Hmm.
And I wasn't quite feeling up to it in that moment because I was having a moment. But I was like, okay, God, I need I need an energetic boost. I'm gonna be over the top and I'm gonna give her a song and dance that she's hoping for. So I did, and I knew what was actually going on now. So I hammed it up quite a lot. And it actually changed my perspective. It made me realize that I am a performer.
Mm-hmm.
It is a circus. Um, yeah. And so 3 months after that, I went home. Life sucked. My family didn't want me around, but they weren't saying anything.
You could just feel it, you mean?
Yeah, I could
Mm-hmm.
feel it. I'm like, this isn't healthy for me. But I couldn't stay there any longer anyway. I had far exceeded their capacity to help me. It's all insurance reasons. And so I was home in a wheelchair for a solid month, and I wasn't allowed to bring my wheelchair inside the house.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I had to use a walker. And then I got my prosthetic leg. They stuck it on me, and my body immediately remembered how to walk.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. And that was a good thing. And it still hurt. I now have osteoarthritis in my left hip, but I'm working on that. And so I remembered where my future husband was. And I figured I need to be in those circles so I could encounter him. And so in February, I had located one of the groups. It was a weekly volleyball, gay men's volleyball group. I went to dinner, and I went to one or two of those, and I met a lot of really nice people. But I was too focused on healing and moving, and I was also focused on finding the guy.
Right.
But I only did that 2 or 3 times. So in March, um, it was International Puppy Day, and someone had posted something online about it, and I said, okay, I used to be a furry, so I love tactile sensations. So I would love it if someone would come up to me and scratch me behind the ears. And so I went to dinner, and someone walked up to me and scratched me behind the ears. We had a wonderful conversation. And then later that week, it was the semi-annual event at the boardwalk. The same event where I heard that guy the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat down and I listened. Didn't feel.
Hmm.
So I just decided, and I was sad, but I just decided, I'm here. I'm gonna have fun. So I talked to the guy that scratched me behind the ears 2 days earlier. Guess what? It turned out to be the guy.
Interesting.
Yeah, it did. Um, he lived 2 miles up the road past me, and I had told the universe that I really don't care what happens to me. And yes, I'm a bit reckless about that, but I need to find my guy before I turn 40.
Mm-hmm.
And that weekend was a week before I was going to turn 40.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I realized I had fallen in love with that man on my 40th birthday. And later that month, we had decided that we are right for each other. And he started he started saying certain things to me. And I had actually had journal entries from 3 years prior of those exact words, of those exact phrases, and thought patterns that I thought my guy was telling me. And since late April of last year, we have gotten together every single night after he
Mm-hmm.
was done with work, without fail. No matter what we were doing, we've been able to get together. And at last year at Beltane, when the pole was raised and we sent off the cone of power, we both touched the maypole, and we made several wishes. One, my remaining health issues get solved. We both get better jobs, and we find a home together. And this all happens before the next Beltane.
So when you were saying that, did you both say the same thing together, or were you both making little extra wishes separate and they ended up being the same?
We had a discussion.
Okay.
We were both touching the pole, and I said, "What do we want to do?"
Okay.
And so we came into an agreement, and he added a couple other things, and we both made that wish.
Mm-hmm.
And I wound up telling him that, okay, in May, during a certain time of May, you're going to be applying for your dream job. You're going to have to update your LinkedIn and do all these other things because you need to get out of the stressful job that you're currently in. It was very toxic and invalidating, and it was slowly killing him. I knew that if he was going to be there for another 6 months, he would be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And during the 3-week, 3-day window of time, we both ran across a job application. It was his dream job. He couldn't get it. He wound up getting it anyway. And it
Mm-hmm.
was on LinkedIn, and he had to update all this information. It turned out to be toxic in a different way,
Right.
but it is paying him more than it was.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually money left over, and that current job is letting him afford the place that we're currently in, and he's moving in this weekend. Actually, he's
Perfect.
starting the move later today.
Okay.
And so he noticed that I predicted that job opportunity, and I possibly manifested it out of thin air, or I was just told that this was going to happen, and we were on the lookout.
Hmm.
It's probably a little bit of both.
Right.
I know that when I focus on something, I create an opportunity for something to come through that's possibly going to try. And that's a big thing of manifestation, creating opportunities for something to happen.
Right. So let me ask you a question. One of the things that you said on your bio is that you're a chaos magician
Mhm.
with quantum physics and
Yeah.
moving energy. So is that what you're kind of talking about right now?
Yes,
Right.
it
Okay.
is. It's all about focusing on a goal and an outcome sometime in the future. You
Okay.
focus on that and
So I listened to
everything.
Abraham Hicks. So I call that pre-paving.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, but
Uh,
I think it's kind of the same thing.
I had a couple encounters with Abraham Hicks,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned a few things,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to get confirmation that some of the stuff I did is very effective.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at the future and I try to imagine the things I could do now to make that future more likely.
Right.
And it's like a ripple effect. You throw a stone into a river to get the leaf on the other side to start moving,
Right.
to get it unstuck and move down the river. And you don't have to throw a giant rock in; just a small stone would work.
Right. Baby steps.
Yeah, and so that works. And I did that enough to the point where I started feeling energy currents. And I learned how to directly address those energy currents. So I state my intention and what I want, what type of outcome I would like to encounter. And the energy responds. I just pretend like it's a puppy and it
Mm-hmm.
wants some love and attention, and I will pet it, pick it up, and play with it.
Okay. Speaking of puppies, I was just about to ask you. It's kind of funny how all that stuff happens, but it was in my mind. I need to ask him about his emotional support animal
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah, 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 yeah.
how that came to be. I mean, it's pretty interesting. And for those who are listening, he actually has a stuffed. Is he a dog? He looks like a
He's,
dog.
he's a
Yes,
wolf.
a stuffed dog. What is he?
Wolf. Wolf.
Wolf, a stuffed wolf. Okay. And he actually has the vest on and everything. He's quite cute.
Mhm.
But tell us about how there's two questions I want answered, if you don't mind. And I know I don't want to take an awful lot of time because we've gone a little long now, but I would love to know how you got the name Fluffy, and how you adopted this emotional support dog. That, and I've seen pictures. You take him with you to coffee shops.
Mhm.
You take him with you all over the place, and I'm sure it opens a lot of people conversations with a lot of people. So I would love to know.
It does. Well, Baxter McDougal is a character is something I came up through Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
And my character in that game was an elf named Jasper. And Jasper was the son of a druid, and
Mm-hmm.
her mom, when her favorite form was a wolf. So he got cursed into something that he was like a werewolf, and he was a ranger, and he wound up befriending a wolf named Baxter, and it turned out to be his emotional support animal.
Okay.
And so that's where the name came from. And Baxter is someone I found at a pagan convention, and there was a guy selling these. And
With the tag and the
yeah,
vest and everything.
and some of the stuff is some of the accessories has fallen off over the 5 years I've had them. But I'll send you the link later so you can repost it if you like.
Okay.
The guy that makes these,
Mm-hmm.
there are every sort of animal, including an octopus and a shrimp.
Intriguing.
And I really like the idea of an emotional support animal because we all need a pet. We all need something that can love us unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
And what we focus on becomes magic. What we focus on becomes real. You ever read The Velveteen Rabbit?
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the story, the rabbit was real.
Right.
And so I started bringing Baxter with me and I gave him a personality. He makes gummy worms. And he clips belly button lint for the lint fairy so that during the holiday Lent there could actually be enough lint to go around. And he has a sibling named Axter and a cousin named Charlotte, and my fiance Joe has both of them.
Okay.
And when we get together, all five of us have conversations. And Baxter was with me in every single major surgery I've had for my foot. I just put him in a plastic bag so I could sit on the counter and watch.
Okay.
And when I request that he comes with me during the surgeries, they all look like at me like I'm crazy, and I just provide solutions on how to do this. And they
Okay.
have no idea what they're and they have no idea what they're who they're dealing with, so they just go along with it. And so it works. And I had one of the chancellors of the pagan tradition I'm a part of did a psychic reading for me a couple years ago and said that I actually have a guardian angel that comes across that is pretending to be Baxter.
Okay.
There in times of emotional support, and he takes this form, so I accept it. And since that has happened, the actual guardian angel comes across and spends time just socializing with me in his real form. And that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I could ask questions and learn more stuff that I wasn't aware of before. But Baxter is needed, not for necessarily for my own good, but because it reminds me that I can't stay serious. And we have the right to choose an emotion and to experience what we do next
Right.
and how to react. And he sleeps he sleeps on my nightstand next to me. And when we go to coffee, if one of the baristas come by, Baxter will stand up and ask questions. And woof 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 woof. And the reactions of the people that he's talking to are always comical.
Yeah.
And this is my reality. And I have noticed that the way people react to my reality, they act as if this is normal because this is my normal.
Right.
And I asked a long time ago from the universe to only send people to me that are part of my universe. So if I throw a rock at someone in the crowd, the person that the rock hit is more than likely going to be part of my universe.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, you and I met, we were both in a group together. And I think on that day, didn't we both end up getting picked to be coached?
Yes.
Yes, yes. And so it was like something about you. It was like when you were talking and getting coached and everything, I thought, I'm going to reach out to him. And so it was just the everything at play to put us both in front of one
Yeah.
another at the same time.
Yeah, and there were several thousand people in that Zoom room getting
Yes.
coached, and we both got picked.
Yes, yes, it was interesting. I was blown away. The other thing was, how did you get the name Fluffy?
I used to be a furry,
Okay.
and so we all. Um, so when I went to a fur convention, I needed a nickname for the badge.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, there was a movie of mine from Disney that I liked. It was called Lilo and Stitch.
Mm-hmm.
It's about this little girl that befriended an alien,
Right.
and he looked like a mutated koala.
Yes.
And every time he would get hit or something heavy would fall on him, he would get up and say that he's fine, he's fine, he's fluffy.
Okay.
So to me, the term fluffy means durability and choosing to react the way you want to and
That's
just move
perfect.
forward.
Yeah, that served you very well too.
Yeah, and it's also my magical name.
Yeah. Cool. So let me ask you this, because I don't want to go on too long with this, because I won't make sure that people are going to listen to the whole thing. So if you could give our listeners one piece of advice about life, adversity, whatever it may be, what would that advice be?
Stand in front of a mirror, think of an animal, and have a conversation with yourself sounding like that animal.
Okay. Not what I expected, but that's really cool. So what does that do?
It means that you can't take yourself seriously.
Okay, because I've never done that. So I will be trying that out in a little while.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
I'll
And
be
think of,
interested to see what animal I come up with too.
yeah, I choose to sound like a duck or a chicken. Um, the other night, my fiance was having a bad moment, and so we were leaving the house, and I just started clucking like a chicken as I was walking to the car, and I was dancing. And it's up on an incline, and I can't do inclines because of my prosthetic leg.
Hmm.
And I was so focused on the dancing and clucking like a chicken and occasionally quacking that I walked up the hill with no problem.
Interesting.
The doing this reroutes all the negativity and all the ruts that you're in.
Our neural
And it just
pathways that
yeah,
we've
and it just
created.
yeah, it just shuts it all down. And you're so focused on the act of being silly,
Hmm.
you let go of everything that you're dealing with that's causing a problem. And it allows the possibility for new things to come in.
I love that. So if we're focused on the being silly, we're actually getting outside of ourselves and outside of our limitations. So they're not keeping us bound into whatever it is that we think we're supposed to be.
Right. And if you do this in front of a mirror, you're sending the subconscious message that you're talking to yourself, to your inner child, so that you're playing. And your inner child will listen and it
Ah,
will probably respond back.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I will say thank you so much
You're very welcome.
for being a guest today, because this has been very intriguing. It's a lot of different avenues of things that I've never thought about before or know nothing about. And so I love being surprised and intrigued with people, and you've definitely done all of that. So I greatly appreciate you. So just hang on for just a minute. I just want to tell everybody, thank you so much for listening and for watching, because later this is going to be on a video platform as well. And make sure to look in the comments, and we'll have some information about where to find Fluffy. And just real quick, I know we mentioned it earlier, or when you and I were talking, your Instagram, your Facebook, your TikTok, your website, everything is almost the same or is the same. So just share real quick how they can find you.
Yeah, all you really need to do is look up with the fluff and associated with whatever popular social media is out there. I'm probably on it, or you could just look up hashtag with the fluff, all one word, and I'm there.
All right, perfect. So I would look to say thank you to everybody that's listening, and I so appreciate you, and I would love you to be here for future episodes. But till then, mwah.
Okay, thank you. Woof woof. Bye.